Hi, today we're going to do a really simple veggie ferment. And the reason why I'm choosing to start this way is because it's a really good entryway. Very few mistakes can be made. But what also we'll be able to do is use that brine to do a nut cheese down the road. So this is a good place to start. So what I've done is and you can use any vegetable, this is a lactobacillus ferment, and that comes out of the ground. They're naturally, this good bacteria is naturally occurring on these vegetables. And then we just add non-chlorinated water, and the reason it's non-chlorinated, because chlorine kills bacteria. Well, it kills bad bacteria, it also kills the good bacteria, so it can inhibit your fermentation. And then I'm using pure salt, so pink salt. We don't want to use iodized salt. Again, that will play with the fermentation. So you can use either sea salt, or in my case, I'm using the pink Himalayan salt. So what I've done is I've cut my carrots and my parsnips to size to fit this jar. And keeping them about the same width and of course the same height, because you do not want some really high ones that will go over the rim, because anything that's outside of that brine is at risk of having bacteria growth. So we need to keep everything submerged. So what I've done is I've cut them like matchsticks, and I'll show you what I do. So I have my digital scale, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to weigh this jar. It's just setting up here. So it comes out at 262 grams. I then tare it and bring it down to 0. And that's going to help me with my math, which I have to admit I'm not that good at math. So anything that can help is a bonus. So what I do is I then stick the veggies back in, get them all standing up nice and straight. You can arrange them pretty. At this point, you could also add your seasoning if you wanted to, but I really want to keep this brine true. And so therefore I'm using just salt. You could add ginger, you could add pickling spice, whatever, but I want to keep it just plain. And really in that fermentation process, it develops a lot of good flavor. But I want it to be plain because I want to use it for that cheese, and I don't want to flavor the cheese. So as you can see, they're all below that rim. So we've got, the rim that the lid goes on. Everything is just below that. So now I put this onto the scale, and it's going to come out at 202. So the vegetables weigh 202 grams. Because I tared it, it has eliminated the weight of the jar. So the 202 is the amount of vegetables. Now I'm going to add my non-chlorinated water. So 202. And I'm going to bring the water up to the point just below the rings. So we're at 348. I'm going to times that by 0.025. And the reason for that is when this particular brine, and it's really safe, between 2 and 3% should be the salt content when you're doing vegetables. And you'll find your sweet spot, and some higher acidic ones will require a little bit more. But really what the salt is doing is keeping the bad bacteria growth down. So I'm at, like I said, 348. I times it by 0.025, and I come up with about 9 grams of salt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this container on. I'm going to tare this container. It's going to read now 0 on the scale, and I'm just going to measure out 9 grams of salt. Perfect. I pour the water back into here because I want to dissolve the salt. I pour the salt in. I use a non-metal utensil, and I'm using a non-metal container to do this mixing because metal can affect the fermentation, and we don't want that. So everything is plastic and glass. So I make sure the pink salt's dissolved. You can actually see it's got a pink hue to it. And when this ferments, it can go a bit cloudy. That does not mean it's bad at all. It just is part of that fermentation process. So once I'm comfortable with where it's dissolved, I pour my liquid in. I bring it up to the rim again. You see, I'm not wasting any brine by doing that measuring method. I have purchased these weights and these airlock seals. They come in different sizes depending on your jar. To me, that's a good investment because I do a lot of ferments. And what it does is it ensures that my vegetables are fully submerged and that bacteria growth won't happen. The bad bacteria growth won't happen. So I put the weight on top. I then put my airlock, and then I loosely put my metal sealer ring. And what's going to happen in this process, I'm going to ferment this for 5 to 7 days. And this will naturally release. There's a little, as it builds up, it will force the opening and release of that gas. Now, if you don't have something like this, and you've just got the flat sealer top, every day I would go in, or every day or two, if I'm seeing a lot of action, I just pop it, just so that you don't get an overflow. And so that's perfectly fine. Another method is actually to get just a baggie, a clean bag, fill it with water, tie it off, and that's going to keep them under the water. And so in 5 to 7 days, I'm going to taste this. I'm going to taste one of the the carrots or the parsnips. And if it tastes good to me, it's got that right amount of sourness that I like, the funkiness that ferment gives. I'm then going to put a lid on it and put it into the fridge. I also will label it what day I put it into the fridge, or because it will last probably about a month. But before that even happens, I'm going to have probably a lot of these eaten, because I just love to eat them. If I have a falafel or something like that, I chop them up and use that pickle in there. And then I'm going to use this liquid. I'm not throwing it away, because it's a really good liquid. And I'm going to show you in another video how to use that liquid to ferment your nut cheese. So that's next time. I hope you found this informative. I'll put the formula in there for the 2.5% and what you multiply it by, but hopefully you'll give this a try. Thanks.